In this episode, I'm going to be breaking down Breaking Bad and talk about how you can sometimes get caught up in the sales process that you actually oversell and talk your way out of a client. It's a term called going past the sale or selling past the close. This essentially means that you continue trying to convince a customer of the benefits of making a purchase after the customer has already decided to make that purchase, which then results in a negative outcome. We'll take a look at this episode first, and then I'll give some other real-world examples from my own experience so that you don't commit this sales sin. Now, if you haven't seen Breaking Bad before, there will be some spoilers, but I'll keep them to a minimum. I won't be discussing anything that happens after season 2, episode 2, titled Grilled, so if you're at least that far into the series, you're safe. At this point in the story, a psychotic Mexican drug kingpin named Tuco Salamanca kidnaps Walt and Jesse and takes them to a desert hideaway. Tuco plans on taking them to a super lab in Mexico where they can cook meth 24/7. Essentially, they become his high-paid slaves. Fearing for their lives, at the prospect of being Tuco's prisoner, they hash a plan to poison Tuco with some meth laced with ricin. The trap is set. Now, they have to figure out how to get Tuco to snort it. Now, luck would have it, a distraught Tuco grabs the bag of poison meth. As to why it smells so funky, Jesse explains it's killer. There's nothing like it. Well, Tuco's a meth addict. He doesn't need much convincing.
Yeah. I'll tell you something, yo. You've never tried nothing like it. Stink or no stink. One bump, you'll be flying high for days.
I want to pause right here and point out that Jesse, having successfully answered Tuco's question of why the foul head cheese smell, also known as an objection in sales speak, should have just stopped there. But of course he doesn't. Side note here is that Jesse's character often plays the role of the foil to Walter's otherwise brilliant plans, constantly putting them in jeopardy. This is the point in which the customer, Tuco, has already decided to buy. Watch what happens next.
It's a new product him and I've been working up. Careful when you hit it. It kicks like a 12 gauge when it comes on. He's got a secret ingredient.
What secret ingredient?
Chili powder.
I hate chili powder.
Jesse, overconfident and encouraged by Tuco's reaction, feels like he's on a roll and keeps selling. In doing so, he inadvertently brings up a problem, the chili pea, that ultimately kills the deal. Quit while you're ahead. The whole plan, predictably, unravels from here. Now, if you've ever found yourself in this situation, stop selling. When the customer has formed the intent to buy, stop. There's nothing to be gained and everything to lose by continuing to sell. Now, you might be asking yourself, why would anyone go past a sale? Don't we all know when to stop? Speaking from experience, I've seen this happen in real-world situations where people who are less experienced in sales or lack the confidence go past the sale and jeopardize the job. Before I tell you about that, let's take a step back and look at how the sales process typically works to get a better understanding as to why this happens. The 6 steps to closing a sale. Generally speaking, there are typically 6 steps to closing a sale. 1 is prospecting. This is where you are searching for potential customers, and it involves research to better understand their needs. Not everyone you find will have a problem you can solve. This could be something you might do at a networking event where you meet a bunch of potential customers, or where you're researching online and making a wish list of companies and people you think might be a good fit for your services. 2, qualifying. Once you've identified prospects, you'll want to qualify them based on 3 main criteria. Available budget, can they afford your product or service? Do they have the power to make decisions? And do they have the desire to buy? These are all very important. So for example, if you got someone's contact information at a party, with a little research afterwards, you can find out the person's title, role in the company, find out how many employees the company has. And a good rule of thumb is to take the number of employees and multiply that by 200,000 to estimate their annual revenue, and determine if they have a problem you can solve. If the prospect is a qualified sales lead, a QSL, you'll want to reach out and send a highly targeted message that will set up your approach. Some sample subject lines to consider are questions about a goal. A mutual connection recommended I get in touch. X tips or ideas for a particular pain point that you know they have. Idea for a topic that the prospect cares about. And lastly, feeling, put in emotion, let me help. If you want more on this, go look up HubSpot's 44 sales email subject lines that get opened, read, and responded to by Emma Brudner. Your goal should be to set up an initial call at this point, which would lead to the approach. The approach, it's your initial outreach to the qualified prospects where you get their attention, make a favorable impression, and build rapport. You do this by asking thoughtful questions. Listen to their thoughts, stories, concerns, and questions. If you do this correctly, you'll have a clear idea about the customer's needs and the problems they're trying to solve. Sample questions to ask. What does a home run look like to you? Or what's one thing on your desk that you'd like to get rid of? Or Michael Bungay-Stanier's favorite question, what's on your mind? Remember, seek to understand, not to diagnose. Number 4, presentation. The presentation is where you share the features, advantages, and benefits, also referred to as FAB, features, advantages, and benefits, of your product or service. It's important here that you present solutions that align with what you learned in the approach. It'll become painfully obvious if you don't ask the right questions, didn't listen, or have an incomplete understanding of the customer's problems. My recommendation is to start with, based on our last conversation together, you said, and then restate the top 3 concerns you heard. So if you're building a website, you'd say, you want a site that clearly communicates a customer benefit, is search engine optimized, and that drives people to download a free resource. This will give context to the solutions you come up with. Objection. This is where the customer will ask questions or make statements about why they might not want to purchase your products or service at this particular point in time. Don't be disheartened, as raising objections is a sign of the customer's interest. Otherwise, they would just politely nod and move on. They just need more information. My advice, take notes. It communicates to the other person you are paying careful attention. Finally, the close. Most customers won't tell you outright they're ready to purchase. You must ask for the sale, and this is what is called closing. Here are some signals that the customer is ready to make a purchase. 1, they're asking about terms and conditions. This is very good. 2, they're asking you to check your schedule and availability. Also a very good sign. And 3, they're asking for referrals of previous customers. Now, if you hear questions like this, it's time to close. You can close by posing a hypothetical question. Why a question? It reduces the pressure of not having to make a decision right now. Say something like, since there seems to be nothing else, I'd like to ask you, if you get a credible proposal by Wednesday that addresses your concerns about having clear, customer-centric messaging, optimized for search engine, and gathers emails for under $50,000, would you be able to move forward? And then let them respond. And hopefully at this point, you've already talked about budget and needs. And so of course they're going to agree at this point. So then you can finish up by saying, great, I'll have something in your inbox Tuesday by end of day. How does that sound? Okay, now back to the real world. Now, believe it or not, we've had the opportunity to work on some really cool music videos for some of the biggest artists. The next example of going past the sale actually happened during a meeting with Chris Martin. Yes, that Chris Martin. We were working on an interactive music video for Coldplay's 6th album, Ghost Stories. Matthew Encina had been working with the team for weeks on this really ambitious idea of making an animated music video where you can choose your own ending. The band had already signed off on the idea, but hadn't seen anything up to this point. So this meeting was a make it or break it moment for us. A lot of work was riding on the line. We had prepared several work in progress clips to get feedback and hopefully get the sign off to finish the rest of the video. Midway through reviewing the animations, Chris Martin waves his hand to signal to us he's seen enough. We all go silent, sitting on the edge of our seats. Chris breaks the silence, smiles, and says, I love it. It was the 3 sweetest words that we could hear from his lips, and we were on cloud 9. Now this should have been the end of the story. But then my executive producer asked, do you want to see the rest of it? He was obviously proud of the work we had done, felt confident, and wanted Chris Martin to see all the hard work we put into this. Recognizing what was about to happen and the awkward silence that followed, I jumped in to pull the emergency handbrake. I don't think Chris needs to see the rest. I'm sure he has other, more important things to do. Let's show him around the office. So what happened? Why would a seasoned producer and person who should know better than to violate the don't go past the sale rule not stop? Simple. He was in love with the plan. When you and your team have a big important client meeting, it's natural for you to plan, rehearse, create visual aids, and prepare responses to any and every possible question. The pitfall of over-preparing can lead you to having tunnel vision and a stick-to-the-script mentality, blinding you to your ability to read the room and being fully present. My executive producer couldn't hear that the client was happy and verbally signing off on the project, the exact reaction we had hoped for. He just agreed to it quicker than we thought, which caught us off guard. He had seen enough and expressed his explicit trust in us to finish the video. What additional benefit was there in pursuing more feedback? How much more of a yes could we get? Had we continued, Chris could have changed his mind, picked apart shots. Who knows what could have happened? And that's how we almost went past the sale with the world's biggest rock band. I hope you enjoyed this video breakdown. Let us know in the comments below if you like this kind of content where we link business concepts with scripted shows like Breaking Bad. I'd love to hear from you, so tell me about a time when you might have gone past a sale or when someone had gone past a sale with you. And that's it for me. Remember, you are not defined by your past. The future is what you make it. See you next time.